As a member of a roadwork crew or utility company, part of your job is setting up traffic control in low-speed work zones, roads with speed limits of 40 miles per hour or less. Throughout this video series, we will cover basic fundamentals and procedures of traffic control in a variety of low-speed work areas. These programs serve only as a starting point for properly handling traffic control. You may still run into times where you need to consult a traffic control expert. But if you use the expert's advice, combined with your own knowledge and common sense, you'll be able to handle any situation properly. Common sense is an important part of traffic control. Since every traffic situation is different, you'll never be able to do a by-the-book setup every time. The key is to step back and look at the work zone from a different point of view, the public's.
Put yourself in the driver's seat. The public walks or drives by a work zone almost every day, but it is a disruption to their daily routine. They're on their way to work, school, daycare, the corner store. How would you like a work zone to be set up if you were driving through it?
If we treat motorists and pedestrians with respect by giving them bold, clear messages when they travel through or near work sites, they're likely to return that favor. They are less likely to view the work site as a disturbance or a delay in their day and see us as professionals who are just doing our jobs.
In this introductory program, we're going to give you some background information on low-speed traffic control. We'll explain the objectives of work zone traffic control. Then we'll cover some of the fundamentals. And we'll also look at the basic design elements of a typical work zone. We'll also talk about some of the manuals and other references you'll need to figure out which devices to use and which procedures to follow. So let's get started with the objectives of work zone traffic control.
In traffic control, the overall goal is to keep both the public and the workers safe, informed, and efficient. So the two main objectives of any work site are to provide a safe and effective work area and to warn, control, protect, and expedite vehicle and pedestrian traffic. Keep these in mind every time you set up a work zone.
To meet these objectives, you need to follow certain fundamental principles of good traffic control. Let's look at them. The first is visibility. Drivers can't expect to follow signs or avoid workers if they can't see them. So it's vital that everything associated with the work zone be easily seen and recognized.
That begins with the work site itself. There are a variety of devices, such as signs, cones, and barricades, that drivers normally associate with road work. Seeing those devices is the public's first clue that something's going on and that they should stay alert. Using your vehicle's flashers, strobes, and beacon also helps get attention. And it's critical that drivers see you, the workers. That's why you should wear bright-colored clothes, such as orange safety vests and bright-colored hard hats. Reflective clothing is a must if you're working in the dark. Visibility is especially vital at night. Reflective material and lighted equipment help make devices, vehicles, and workers as visible as possible.
Another fundamental to good traffic control is to provide road users with plenty of warning.
You must let the public know what to expect on the road ahead. Using standard warning signs is often the best way to do this. Sometimes one sign is enough, other times you'll need a series of signs. Remember, advanced warning signs are an essential part of preparing the driver for the road changes ahead.
Controlling and guiding traffic movement is also extremely important. Traffic control devices and techniques help you get traffic through work zones safely.
For example, using cones help you clearly define the work zone, separating the work area from traffic and outlining the edge of the safe travel path. Signs are also helpful for guiding traffic, especially when you have to change lanes or set up detours. Placing signs along the route helps keep everything moving safely and efficiently.
Proper work zone design is the key to a safe and efficient work site. Let's see how a work site should ideally be set up. A typical work zone usually has 4 distinct areas, each with its own function. First is the advance warning area. This is where you set up standard warning signs to warn drivers that there's a work site ahead and that they should prepare for unusual conditions. The next section is called the transition area. Here, drivers move out of their normal traffic path and into one that the work zone doesn't interfere with. The transition areas usually feature a taper of channelizing devices which help gradually move traffic over from a closed lane. Keep in mind that detours are also considered transition areas. Next is the work area, including a buffer space if there's enough room. This space provides recovery room for drivers who don't make the transition out of a closed lane. It's important to keep workers, materials, and equipment out of the buffer area. The work area also includes the actual work site, complete with a crew and equipment. After the work area comes the termination area. This is where traffic can resume its normal pattern. The termination area is sometimes indicated by an end of construction sign. Since no 2 work sites are exactly the same, you'll see a lot of variations on this basic design, but the majority of work zones will follow this pattern. You can ensure that your work site is set up properly by following the 4-step plan method. Preview the location, lay out a detailed diagram, analyze traffic patterns and choose the best options, and navigate the plan from the driver's point of view. The plan method can be applied to almost any traffic control situation. Keep it in mind as you set up your work zone areas.
We've gone over the basics of good traffic control setup, but you still may need to look up more specific information. Let's talk about the manuals and references that can help you find out more about traffic control.
The Federal Highway Administration's Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices is always a good place to start. In Part 6 of the manual, or MUTCD, you'll find standards for devices and typical work zone situations. In addition to the federal manual, your state or local highway agency may have its own manual dealing with work zone traffic control. Remember, local standards always meet or exceed federal standards. The federal manual does require that any project that affects the movement of traffic needs to have a traffic control plan. For most projects, the plan can be simply a standard drawing from the manual. For more complex or long-term projects, a specific plan for the site may have to be prepared. In either case, what's important is knowing the requirements of the plan and carrying them out. And always be prepared to do more than the plans call for if the on-site conditions require it. And you should always be familiar with your own agency's or company's policies and procedures for safety and traffic control techniques and equipment. For example, if your company requires that you wear a hard hat or carry a certain number of cones or signs, be sure to do it. Always.
Each work site is unique, and traffic control situations are never the same. While it's important that you know the basic rules of proper traffic control, you probably won't be able to apply these techniques by the book every time. The answer is to use common sense and good judgment whenever you confront a new situation or if problems arise.
In the upcoming video of this series, we'll get into specific ways to use the information covered in this introduction. But mainly, it comes down to this. Work zone traffic control is our way of communicating with the public, telling them what to expect and how to react. If we want to create and maintain a safe work site, we must make our message as clear as possible.
From an early age on, we've learned to recognize the warning signs and devices used for traffic control in and around work zones. These signs have become a part of our society, and we follow them almost subconsciously. But did you ever think about what would happen if we didn't have these devices?
Hello?
Hi, Sue. Just wanted to let you know that there's road construction ahead. So, try new Tasty Bites. And by the way, Sue, the left lane is closed at the intersection of 40th and Grand.
Telegram.
Roadwork ahead, stop. Left lane closed, stop. Be prepared to stop. Stop. Stop, stop.
Now, I'll admit that situation's a little extreme, but it does show you how important traffic control devices are for communicating with drivers. Remember, motorists rely on you to give them the right messages that will guide them safely through the work zone. In order for you to be an effective communicator, you must be familiar with all the devices used in safe traffic control.
In this video, we're going to talk about the control devices that you'll probably use most often. These are signs, channelizing devices, warning lights, and barricades.
In order for these devices to be effective, they have to first get people's attention and then convey a clear and simple message. It's also important for the devices to command respect so that drivers recognize and always obey them. And so national standards require that all traffic workers must use similar devices. You can find these standards in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Specific local requirements often exceed national standards, so it's a good idea to check on your local requirements before putting up traffic control devices. Now, let's look at traffic control devices in detail, starting with signs.
Traffic control signs advise and warn drivers and tell them how to travel through the work site. They communicate these messages through words, colors, shapes, and symbols. For example, the color orange is used for construction or maintenance, and a diamond shape is used for warning signs. Signs that are used at night must be either reflectorized or illuminated so that the shapes and colors stay the same.
Think about all the signs you see every day just driving down the street. Each of these signs belongs to one of three different categories: regulatory, warning, or guide signs.
Regulatory signs, which are rectangular with a white background, hold legal obligations on traffic and are always placed where the regulation becomes effective. For example, parking restrictions begin at the point where the sign is located. To avoid confusion, you must remove or cover any existing regulatory signs that are overridden by temporary signs. Keep in mind that regulatory signs must be authorized by the proper officials. So if you have to close a left turn lane and install no left turn signs, you should first talk with the proper agencies. Warning signs warn drivers of potentially hazardous conditions, particularly when they're not obvious or can't be seen by the drivers. In work zones, these signs are diamond-shaped with a black message on an orange background. Warning signs need to be far enough in advance of work zones to give the driver time to understand and react to the message. But they can't be placed so far ahead that drivers forget the message by the time they reach the work zone. Guide signs give travelers information on destinations, motorist
Sound check. Fill the fuel tank. Clean away dirt and material. Park the dump truck on a level surface. Set the parking brake. Let the engine idle for approximately 5 minutes before shutting it off, and record your hour meter reading. This videotape has included general maintenance procedures. Your agency may require that you modify certain activities. There also may be additional safety inspection points. If so, follow your operator guidelines. This concludes the videotape on dump truck operator daily maintenance. Following these procedures will help ensure that your equipment is properly maintained in good operating condition.